What's going on, guys? Well, thank you guys for tuning in this week. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, and hopefully you were able to find some good deals on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. I hope you were able to spend some time, quality time, with family and friends and eat some amazing food during this holiday. But now that we're back into the groove of things, hopefully, I just want to discuss two common phrases that us as human beings tend to use just day to day in everyday life that we maybe don't think of that the meaning behind them. So I just want to bring them up and just kind of challenge us a little bit. So if you're interested to find out what these phrases are, please stay tuned. So cue that intro. All right, so phrases. Some of these phrases that I want to just bring our attention to are interesting. I think that we use them a lot, and maybe we don't have an idea or fully comprehend what exactly we're saying when we say these. So I just wanted to bring them to you, kind of show them to you, and then just have us think about them. First one is love is blind. Now, a lot of us probably say this in regards to dating because this is where it's common. And I don't know if we really truly understand what we're saying when we say this, because the phrase, the meaning of the phrase, which I'll put up in the corner over here, basically means that we ignore any sort of potential red flags, things that maybe our intuition or, ourselves, our internal selves might be saying, hey, whoa, wait a minute, that's not a good quality. We should not be overlooking that. And we tend to just overlook it when we are in love with somebody. Now, this is kind of like a spin-off of the dating and marriage video that I did. If you haven't seen that, I will link that up in the corner. I highly encourage you guys to go back and watch that, but I don't want to, focus a whole video on that again. So I just wanted to kind of tag this onto a separate video as far as phrases go. But I came across this interview with Madison Pruitt Trout, and she was on this podcast, the Happy Hour podcast, and she was talking about this because she wrote this in her book, this whole phrase about love is blind. So I wanted to show this clip to you, and then we'll just kind of come back and discuss a little bit. So check this out.
Be alert. Like, you don't have to follow the whole, quote that's like love is blind, right? You don't have to date blind. Like, you can date with your eyes and your heart clear, with vision, eyes open, heart set on Jesus, and you can know exactly, what your standards are and what your non-negotiables are and what you're not willing to settle for.
Now, see, we don't have to date or go through relationships with that whole love is blind, because we should be, like I mentioned in that dating video, date with intention, date with the purpose of getting married. And if we're basing our foundation if we're hopping into a relationship on the Bible, then we don't have to really quote this whole saying about love is blind, because love is not blind. Love is actually eyes wide open. You should be knowing what you're looking for, knowing what kind of relationship you're looking for in a potential spouse, but what kind of qualities you're looking for in a potential spouse. So this idea of ignoring the red flags because you're just so in love with this person, it's more of an infatuation, more of an attraction, and not really love. And when we get into this ignoring things that might be screaming out at us and telling us, hey, slow down, wait a minute, take a few steps back, let's think about this, and we just move past that and we're like, no, I can make them change. Oh, that's not really them. I could work on that. Let's not kid ourselves. We're not trying to go after a project person that we're trying to fix. We have to be equally yoked when we hop into a relationship for a potential spouse. So I just wanted to kind of put that in front of you, that maybe we should kind of caution ourselves as far as what we say. Think about what we're saying, and just think about the impact that it might have on people around us that are watching how we step into relationships. So I hope that helps a little bit. And the other phrase I wanted to bring up and mention is this idea of practice makes perfect. Now, this comedian, Michael Jr., was kind of talking about this, talking about the idea of like explaining God. Somebody was asking him about explain God to me. And you know, he said it well, like, you know, I can't really explain God, because if I was to explain God, he wouldn't be God. There's just things about God that you just don't know. He reveals things to you, but you're not going to know everything, because he's God. He's God. But the analogy that he gave about this was really interesting. This was the analogy that he came up with, but I thought it was rather interesting. So check this clip out, and then we'll come back and just kind of discuss this as well.
One dude was like, explain God to me. I was like, what? Like, just explain God? I can't explain. If I could just explain God, he wouldn't be God. And this other dude was like, well, how is it I could do all of these things I'm doing and people still say that Jesus wants a relationship with me? How is that possible? You know what I'm doing. I'm doing all this stuff. And yeah, he was doing some stuff. And I was like, the only thing I can come up with at the time, and this isn't even close to how awesome God is, but this is all I could come up with. I was like, God is like being in a car with a navigation device. You ever been in a car with a navigation device before? You ever been in a car before? You ever been in a car? Okay. It's like being in a car with a navigation device. If it says go 10 blocks and turn left, then you go 3 blocks and turn right. It doesn't abandon what you're supposed to do. It recalculates what you need to do to get to where you're supposed to be based upon where you are. The only problem is if you keep making the wrong turns, the road conditions may be different. They may be rougher and you're running out of time. So you have to be sensitive to listen to that voice to make the right choice about where you're supposed to be. And that voice sounds an awful lot like a coach, because you haven't been practicing for nothing. It's game time.
See, that idea of a GPS, of not abandoning your route when you make the wrong turns, it recalculates depending on where you're at. But here's the thing. We go through life and we constantly make wrong turns. God has a path for us, but we choose if we want to take that path or not. And when we don't take that path, he will use what decisions we make and try to bring us back to the path that he's designed for us. So all of these experiences that we might have and gone through based on decisions that we made, that say maybe he didn't intend for us to have to go through that, but we decided to choose this person, to take this job, to make this friend, to buy this house, whatever the case may be. And because of that, certain things came after that, and he just used that as part of our story. He recalculates. But here's the thing. For God, this makes sense. He uses our bad decisions, and he can turn them around and use them for his glory. It can become part of our testimony. But what are we practicing? Because if you look at this phrase, practice makes perfect, I'm going to put that up in the corner as well. That says basically anything that you exercise, like a talent or skill, that you become proficient in. So what are we practicing to become proficient in? Are we practicing things that go against God? Are we practicing things that benefit and that actually align with God? I just want us to think about, when we say practice makes perfect, what are we practicing? What habits and lifestyle decisions and choices are we putting in place and creating habits of, and maybe unintentionally making ourselves proficient in? Are we being proficient in failing, in making bad decisions, in choosing the wrong path because we listen to the wrong people? So I just want us to just be mindful of that when we say practice makes perfect. Just think about, what are we practicing? What are we trying to make perfect? Are we trying to practice God's will in our life and follow Him? Or are we practicing our own way and trying to force our own way and making ourselves proficient in constantly disobeying God and trying to do our own thing and making our lives harder than it needs to be? So just want us to think about this stuff and just ponder it a little bit. And I hope this kind of resonates with somebody. Maybe somebody needed to hear this. So thank you guys for tuning in this week. Next week, I'm going to be talking about trusting God, and I'm going to be reading a Bible story. If you guys are familiar with Gideon, if those of you who aren't, well, I'm going to be reading that story next week. So hopefully you guys tune in for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, stay safe and stay blessed.